cookies. Can you tell me where Camp Peter was located? Sergeant Johnson asked me with a map of Tokyo in his hands. Camp Peter? What's that? I asked. It was the day following his arrival in Japan and his transient assignment to Tokyo Quartermaster Depot, a large U.S. forces installation in Shinagawa, for which I worked as an interpreter. Although World War II had ended some years ago, the United States was fighting another war in Korea. He was to be sent to the front soon. Don't you know Camp Peter? He said. It was the military police station during the war. Oh, you mean Camp Petai? I chuckled, then said, I have no idea where it was because I wasn't in Tokyo during the war. But tell me, why Camp Petai? How come you know such a word? Puzzled, I looked at his chiseled, handsome features. He was a taciturn man. He said, Never mind, I'm going out. I want you to come along. Hurry up. At the main gate of the depot, Sergeant Johnson told the jeep driver to turn left, to the south, and we were soon on the highway going toward Yokohama. He told the driver to turn left to Omori into a narrow road, and then into another narrow one. My curiosity pricked me, but I refrained from asking questions, for he grew absorbed in the passing view outside the windows. Gray shabby houses run into decay clustered along the sides of the winding road. The faint smell of seaweed drying in the sun wafted in the air, suggesting we were in a fishing village. Stop, he said suddenly. The jeep stopped with a jolt at the corner of the alley. Through the window shield, I saw a thin old woman in a dark blue kimono plodding along the alley. He threw the door open, jumped out, dashed up to the woman, and grabbed her arms. She mumbled, trying to free herself. Softly, he said something in her ear. She looked at a foreigner towering over her, whose stiff expression melted slowly into a beaming smile. She bowed gracefully. He bent clumsily. She said something in Japanese. He said something in English. Finally, I heard Johnson say, Look, I'll come tomorrow. Then he left her as swiftly as he came. Go straight on, he told the driver. It took a second or two before the driver, probably mystified by what he had just seen, returned to reality and started the engine. Scarcely had the jeep run a minute when we came to a beach looking over Tokyo Bay. Just in front of us, about 30 meters offshore, lay a small island with a few wings of unpainted wooden barks on it. From the smashed window panes and the doors flung open, you could tell the buildings were uninhabited. The island was connected to the shore with a narrow wooden bridge. Wait here, he told both of us. We saw him cross the bridge cautiously, as here and there the planks were missing. Reaching the island, he strolled around the ground, which had become overgrown with weeds. He approached one of the barracks, paused at the entrance for a moment, and then disappeared inside. A few minutes passed before he came out of another door. He looked at the sky, then looked down. I fancied he was praying. With the deserted barracks on the desolate island, and with the sky now blazing sunset, the lone American soldier standing in a pensive mood produced a theatrical effect, perfected by the incessant sound of waves rolling on the sands. "I can't wait any longer, Sergeant," I told him when he returned. "Tell us what this is all about." "All right," he said smilingly. As the jeep started toward the depot, he began his story. During the war, I was a crewman on a B-29. One day in March 1945, we were raiding Tokyo. When we were looking down at what looked like a large ballpark, some anti-aircraft fire hit our plane. Further flight was impossible, so we came down in the parachutes. When I landed, many people crowded around me. Soon a man in a military uniform came up. He was a military police. That's how I learned the word kempe. Then he took me to the station Kempetai, Bogwilling. "It must have been a painful experience," I said sympathetically. "Well, not really. The kempe in charge of me was a rather understanding young man, and he was fluent in English." "You must have been very lucky," I said. Yes, I was. Then, a few days later, I was taken to that island. "I see. That fully explains why you were so meditative on the island. So you lived in those barracks as a prisoner of war." "That's right. I lived there about 6 months until the war ended." "I suppose the poor's life was a hard one." We were told that all Japanese soldiers would commit suicide rather than being captured by the enemy and forever dishonoring their families. And our bombers kept attacking Tokyo every day. So we were the target of contempt and hostility. "What did you do every day?" One of our daily tasks was carrying a bucket of night soil. What a horrible task! I was in charge of the district where we stopped off. Now I am beginning to see the whole story. And what about that old woman? Yes, I'm coming to that. Johnson paused, perhaps remembering the bitter days. The meals we ate every day were just horrible, and they gave us so little. We were hungry day and night, but we knew we had no right to complain. Sometimes we had a chance to see what kind of stuff Japanese were eating. They were eating nothing better than what we were eating. They were also starving. Since our attacks had destroyed the roads everywhere in the country, transport of foodstuffs must have been extremely difficult. One day, when I happened to be alone in an alley, I heard a hushed voice somewhere. Looking around, I found her at her door, waving me to come nearer. I hesitated because we are prohibited to talk with Japanese. Making sure no Kempi was around, I came near her. Suddenly, she held out something wrapped in a piece of paper. unfolding it. I was struck dumb with amazement. I found in it a few cookies. I knew sugar was as precious as gold. I'd heard that woman who had merely said, "How pitiful," when watching the poets walk down the street, was branded as a traitor and was ostracized by her community. So, if she were caught there, I couldn't imagine what kind of punishment it could be. Poor and fragile as she looked, she was a sympathetic and a brave woman. The jeep arrived at our office building. "So, what are you going to do?" I asked. "First thing in the morning, I go to the commissary and buy her everything money can buy. Yes, I'll buy her a jeep full of foodstuffs, bread, butter, coffee, rice, canned meals, soups, and, oh yes, a lot of cookies." That was the last I saw of Sergeant Johnson. He must have gone to the front to fight another battle.